he was able to make the long way from India here to Copenhagen. And coming back to my Barcamp attitude, 3 hashtags, I was associate with you for sure, publisher, knowledge worker, storyteller. Would you agree?
Sure.
Sure.
Why not?
But I think you are really multi-talented. And I think I don't know anybody else who is so cosmopolitan and experienced like you are. Would you like to share some insights? Because you did not live only in India.
Yeah, sure. I hope I don't bore all of you. And I have a tendency to go on, and we have limited time. So I'll try to be brief. I'm a child of Indian independence, which is also known as Midnight's Children. India became independent in 1947. I was born in 1949, also in the month of August. And it was a time of great optimism in our country. So much optimism that my father once told me, "Don't worry about anything. You're the son of a rich man." It turned out I was not the son of a rich man. My father lived in over 30 rented places, and he died in a rented place. But the other part of the story is that my father loved to travel. And my first travel with my mother and him was when I was 7 months old. It's a long story how he managed that. But anyway, he changed jobs, he went to work for the Indian government, and we went to America, where he was posted as the head of tourism. And he decided to take us by ship. So we went to Mumbai from Delhi, and we went on a small ocean liner, P&O liner called the Chusan. We went to Aden, we went to the Red Sea. This was in 1958, December, I think. There were submarines sticking out in the Red Sea. So you got, even then, I remember that somehow this connected us to the world. And then we went to London, and then we took another ship, big ship, all the way to New York, where I grew up. And I grew up in the 1960s in New York. So I'm part of the baby boomer generation. And I am a publicist, although I'm a grandson of a printer and a publisher also. And I had seen his press with litho stones, etc. I actually got jobs in the printing industry. I was trained in computers, worked as a key punch operator, went to college at the same time. But also, I became a publicist for the movement for racial equality, the movement against the Vietnam War. So I'm very much a printer with a cause. I believe in that we are here for the spread of knowledge and ideas. And once I met one of the antiquarian booksellers. You meet them in Frankfurt and in very special places with very expensive old books, 500 years old. And he told me something very interesting, because we always were under the impression that books were spread by people like the Oxford Press, etc., to proselytize the Bible or to spread religious ideas. He said no. Many of the earlier books were actually books for spreading science. They may have been printed with blocks in black and white and were hand-painted, but books have always been a key to the spread of ideas, democratization of ideas, etc. So that is one thing. And we were mad. We were young. We were mad. So we thought we could do anything. We thought we could build a typesetter on our own, students. We built a printing machine on our own. And after one of the big student strikes, we collected money. We built our own printing press at a place in...
But when I got it right, the access to the print world was driven by content, not by technology. Technology was something like an appendix to the...
Yeah. And, we were part of things like Liberation News Service, where We had a correspondent in Vietnam, Wilfred Burchett, the very famous and well-known New Zealander, and we used to bring out 2 packets every week. And our camera was a hole in the partition wall. And we would distribute these weekly, twice a week things to 800 underground newspapers, and also to the New York Times, and also to the CIA, of course. So that was our work as publicists. So when I went back to India, I was...
That was when?
That was in 1974, 75. Yeah,
so that means, so for 15 years you lived in New York City?
More like 17 and a half years,
okay.
About 17 years, yeah, something like that. So I grew up there. I was very American. I had an American accent, although, anyway, that was all there. And I thought I'll go back to India, and you are young, you can do anything. You can learn the language in the language lab in the university. So I went into the language lab and I tried to learn 3 Indian languages. I'd heard that it can be done in 10 days. But of course, when I reached India, I couldn't speak any of them. I couldn't learn, and I had to take a course there. In fact, the course I took was in the same building that my grandfather owned and where I'd grown up, which had been sold to the German embassy, the Max Muller Bhavan in Delhi. So that was, so basically then I also realized that I didn't know anything about my country, that I should not speak. So there is a tradition in Indian culture of taking the vow of silence. I know you'll find that difficult to believe, Morton. Yeah. But I sort of took a vow of silence for about 2 years and traveled the country to learn. And it was quite difficult to understand what is going on, how things work. And I also realized that working as a printer is a good way to be silent. You can work with your hands, and I was an educated person willing to work with my hands. Typesetters, computerized typesetters were new. I got involved with implementing the Devanagari script. Then I got involved with using one of the first color scanners. I taught myself the whole thing out of the manual. Then I ran into various gurus. And ultimately, there was a conference that the government held in 1979 on the use of computers for non-Roman languages. So I'd worked 2.5 years in one job, which is, for me, pretty big. I mean, I'm absolutely one of those people who are unemployable. And
therefore, he's the boss today,
So, I mean, I realized that. I resigned once, they brought me back. I had to resign a second time to really get out. But I decided that I would work in this area of implementation of non-Roman scripts, especially Indian scripts. And it was a kind of a circus. We joined A-Type-I. We developed some guidelines, various technologists in the institutes. And this conference had brought together calligraphers, typographers, type founders, a lot of gurus, R.K. Joshi, the calligrapher, Gopal Krishna Modi, the type founder, and various technologists from IIT Kanpur. And as I was discussing with Jacob, actually we have many gurus in common, Jacob and I. And our gurus are also in common. That means I never met Effie, but his friend and guru was William Schreiber. And William Schreiber was the guru of many of my friends because he went to IIT Kanpur, the Indian Institutes of Technology that were established by the independent new government, were subsidized by various countries. Like IIT Kanpur was subsidized and in cooperation with the Americans. IIT Powai with the Russians, IIT Calcutta with the Germans, and IIT Chennai with the British. So IIT Kanpur had a very good computer lab. Actually, all the institutes had good computer labs. And most of these computers had, most of these labs and universities had computers donated by DEC, Boston, just north of the Boston Ring. And they had given them these 44 volumes of Unix, but no software. And there you have the hand-picked, most chosen students in India, the most brilliant minds. What are they going to do in these air-conditioned spaces with 44 volumes of Unix? So naturally, they became very adept at software. They wrote software. They could stay there the whole night. And when I had actually quit my job and I wrote an article about the agenda of the Indian script, what we needed to do, including OCR, by the way. Okay, that's interesting because Raymond Kurzweiler was working on OCR. And my article, my boss sent it to John Siebold. And John Siebold published it on the front of the Siebold Report. And then I went to meet John Siebold, and he also became a guru. And John Siebold told me about Donald Knuth in California, who we went to meet. And I met one more of my gurus who was a mathematician, Piyush Ghosh, who died very young of cancer, who taught us not only about Metafont, Tetch and Metafont and Donald Knuth's work, but also about the string technology. What is it called? Fractals.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we wind up in one of these institutes in India, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, with all these scientists. And PostScript has come out. And obviously, we discovered it through Apple, through the Mac. And when we were in the TIFR, I said, like these guys had also imported a Canon laser printer, but they practically could not produce anything with it. And I said, it's very simple. It's software. You're software guys. What's the problem? There's PostScript and this and that. They said, you must be an Apple salesman. So anyway, it went from there. And actually, we developed a whole, we were able to develop a lot of the technologies. And the person who was most influential in this development was William Schreiber from MIT, who was at IIT Kanpur. He was a madman, I think. I have not met him. Must have been a madman because he was almost arrested at IIT. He set up a whole television broadcasting system on the campus. And broadcasting without a license from the government in India was illegal. The only broadcaster was the government at that time. There was no private broadcasting. And he motivated these students. He said, why don't you do the work on implementation of Indian scripts? And the first generation did some work. They were in the 1979 conference. But subsequently, I met the second generation of computer scientists from IIT Kanpur. And by that time, I had met John Siebold, and he had told me about Donald Knuth. He had also told me about Raymond Kurzweiler. And I gave one of these mad young guys John Siebold's book. And I had gone to IIT Kanpur with my wife, and next morning he meets us. He's read the whole book. And he saw that what he had been working on with Indian scripts, a kind of a generator, he finally found an application. The application was typesetting. And to a large extent, the revival of Indian languages, the prosperity of the Indian newspapers, who were in those days mired in metal. You had to melt lead to actually make the forms to print the newspapers. And for Indian scripts, it was very tedious business to actually set type on a linotype machine or a monotype machine, etc. All the languages became liberated through this process of offset and computerized typesetting. And all the debates of storage of character as rasters and this and that, standardizing the keyboards, we were able to take it on. And the second generation from IIT Kanpur was, these were the people, they saw the Mac and they loved the Motorola 68000 chip. And the Motorola 68000 chip was a dual-use chip. You couldn't import it into India. Yeah. So naturally, I smuggled 100 chips. And that's how we built our script generator. And then we showed it at the Siebold conference. We showed it at IPEX also in '93. And we showed it at the Siebold conference, I think, in San Francisco, in an informal way. And and apparently Schreiber inspired F.E. Arazzi, and F.E. Arazzi and had many patents. So there is a common thread. I just like to comment that, so this is how we are linked. These are our gurus. This is the human part of where we come from. We stand on the shoulders of giants, like Schreiber, like F.E. Arazzi, like John Siebold.
if somebody would choose you as guru, maybe I do. I think you are my guru, and something like the Mahatma Gandhi for the print world. I'm not kidding, because you are full of wisdom and so experienced, and your approach to the print world is so natural but different, you know, because normally everything is technology driven. And you talk about content, you talk about reinventing typesetting, especially for your country. You said that you are publishing actually in English,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
India has so many different languages.
It has about 24 official languages, 400 languages otherwise, about 4,000 or 5,000 dialects. You see, you must appreciate what you people are. You people are geniuses. You people have brought something which is a great leveler for humanity. You know, languages are dying, but our technology has saved them. We have saved subcultures. We have saved sub-languages, which were on the verge of extinction. It's no less than the extinction of wildlife.
So that means you are Mahatma Gandhi for the print world. Maybe a big applause for that.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is the meaning of what we do for human beings and for communication and for education and for the revival of our traditions and our cultures is enormous. We're just scratching the surface, I think.
Yeah. And actually, if you look to the print world, what is good, what is bad, what I've learned is that people in the Western world are complaining, oh, print is shrinking and decrease, and in India it's something like exploding.
Yeah, it is growing. It is growing very well. As you know, the Indian GDP itself is growing at about 6.5%. Realistically, this year it'll probably go down to 6.25%, which is still the highest in the world. It's already more than a $3 trillion economy. But a lot of these are just functions of this population. Okay, what do you expect these people to do? They're not going to sit tight and starve. They're going to do something. They're going to educate their kids. They're going to want them to make a living. So this is the dynamic. So doesn't matter which government comes and goes. In fact, the current government is a very poor investor in education. But nevertheless, people will not stop educating their children, and they will send them to private schools if the public schools are not there. There are schools in India which only exist on paper, by the way. Okay, there are no teachers, there are no walls, okay? But nevertheless, nothing can stop the dynamic of human beings trying to improve their life. And that is a very fundamental dynamic. And beyond that, now you have a huge educated population, a middle class that is growing, and wealth that is growing. You know, and even in the 1980s, when I went to Kerala, you had 100% literacy. Children were barefoot, but no child in Kerala was begging. They were all going to school. So you have there is an enormous. What I would just like to add, sort of, is that what I see the need and the opportunity of meeting like this. I mean, it's been tremendous for me to meet people like Jacob and to see that we come from some shared technologies and ideas and how technologies actually develop. And is also that the narrative, the narrative of communication, the narrative of machinery, of business, of industry, of what should happen, why we need digital printing, et cetera, et cetera. This has been driven a lot from Europe and America. And I think we all have the opportunity now to look for narratives that are coming out of Asia. We need to recognize the scientists who are working there. We need to see that the Indian software developers will not remain code coolies. They will start creating products. And they are doing that. And they'll also create machines because technology is a leveler. There are 300 automation companies in India. So why can't you build anything you need? And that's happening. And so many of the dysfunctions of marketing are simply for lack of recognition of this market. As you said, yes, it's to go back to your question, to answer that instead of my own tirade, is that that yes, the economy is growing at 6%, 6.5%, but the printing industry is growing at faster than that. Right now, the commercial printing industry is down, the newspaper industry is very depressed, but in the last 2 years it has come back. And the packaging industry is explosive, growing above GDP levels, and huge investment in India. There are at least 25 private equity companies around the world who are desperate to invest in the printing industry in India. The mandate of their people in India is go buy a stake in a packaging company or buy a packaging company. And so almost every day there is talk of a deal, and fairly large deals also. So there is it is growing, and it's bound to grow, because partly we saw during the pandemic the Zoom style of education didn't work.
Do you think you get the right support by suppliers from the Western world?
You see, I call my magazine Indian Printer and Publisher, but for the last 45 years it has been mostly dependent on foreign, for the Heidelbergs and the KBAs and Konica Minolta supporting us in terms of advertising. But I didn't sell my magazine because the company that would have bought it would have changed the name. And I thought eventually the Indian manufacturers would support me. It has come true. So the manufacturing industry, suppliers to the Indian, to the world now. I mean, you should not underestimate the capacity of the Indian suppliers to produce good machinery. That's another sensitivity, that you should not, I think you should not dismiss that these people produce an inferior product. This is no different than the German arrogance when they said, oh, this is a German product and this is, the Japanese products are inferior. Okay? German precision, German metallurgy. These are narratives. These are myths, as Yuval Noah Harari would say. History is only stories. So these stories need to change. You need to be alive to the possibilities of people everywhere. A young person with a computer. I had an intern from one of the printing schools. He came to my place and I had a kind of a ramshackle color lab. I'm a color management guy also. Obsolete densitometer, etc. But he has access to the internet. He made something out of nothing. He made a solution for color management just from the internet with obsolete stuff. And then he went to France to study. And now he did a PhD. He's working for Renault and giving talks everywhere on color science. So the talent, how can you deny the fact that the talent is there everywhere? And not just India or Asia, also in Africa. So I think we are making a lot of, we are not seeing our opportunity to do what people want, what people need.
Yeah. That's what we discussed yesterday. We had lunch together and discussed it, and I was thinking that some of the Western manufacturers, everything is overdone, so they integrate features who nobody needs, but they charge you for that. So a certain approach of simplifying to keep costs down, is that important?
I'll tell you, I have another guru. I have a guru who taught me, since I've got into packaging. I'm an offset printer and typesetter, but somehow I got into packaging at the right time. That packaging magazine is very successful, 100 pages. Well, my original magazine is down to 60. So I went to visit a guy who's in Pune who builds filling and sealing machines for a German company called Oyster Hassia at that time. And then I come to Interpack, and I come to the press conference of that company. And this company has manufacturing or sales in 35 countries around the world, packaging, filling, and sealing machines. They point to my friend, and they said, this is the guy who lightweighted our machine. Talk to him. Because everybody in the world, from Brazil to Africa to there, they want to lightweight the machine. If you have a perfect machine, which is the most wonderful in the world, but you want to have a machine that people will actually buy.
That's the difference.
This guy is retired. Go talk to him. He can build a machine with much less steel, with fewer buttons, simplified, full electronics, data collection. These are levelers. These are no longer proprietary technologies. The black boxes are over. So this is an opportunity as well as, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. So I think it is a great opportunity, in fact.
Let's step into your mind map. I have his mind map here, and you specified the P in print for people first. Why that?
Well, I listen to G. I listen to G. And he says, I agree with him. You know, I'm a terrible marketer. I mean, my own company is like collapsing because I'm not a very good person in selling anything. But I agree that all these words, salience and this and that, and I know, because the HP calls us up sometimes. You know, they want us to do this. They want to fill out forms. They want to overload. I said, look, you know, it's not my cup of tea. You know, I want some credibility in the market. I want to say that your machine is bullshit. I want to be able to say, no, it's very good. I want that freedom, and I want to inspire people to use it to do something interesting. And by the way, digital printing, the best application of it in the world is in India. Nobody talks about it. The best application of digital printing in the world is when you go to vote on election day. In every voting booth, you have 35 copies of all the voters in that place with your picture in 2 languages, your native language and some other language there, official language. So that's a valuable societal use. It's the world's largest democracy thanks to digital printing. Or digital printing is very much part of that. And people in India fight to have their vote. They want to vote. If their name is not on the list, they go there. So this is a very incredible use of digital printing. And HP's most successful customer is also in some part of India. The one who buys the most, you know, toner, because he probably runs the machine 26 hours a day. I don't know what they do. You know? So this is the way the world is. They will find a use. Don't try to tell them it is for, because I've heard Benny Landa so many times apologizing because he got it all wrong. You know, the printing, it was meant for this. Nobody wanted that, at least in India. You know, and then he said, yes, I was wrong. It's meant for short-run printing. I mean, it changes the paradigm all the time. But but your customers will find the use. If the technology has something in it, they are the creative people. Your customers are very creative, I think. And this goes back to what G is saying, that we need to listen to them. We need to understand them. Like the Indian customer is very smart, but I don't know if we have time for all that.
Yeah, is that the reason why the R in print, you said it's research first?
Yeah.
That means we need to gain more knowledge, more relevant knowledge.
See, our capacity to listen is very poor. And frankly, the narratives are very biased. One of the reasons, by the way, Cytex and HP is very successful in India is because they go there all the damn time. Like, you know, any place you went to in India at one time, you could sell a washing machine if you had the logo Cytex. You could sell a car with that name. Because those guys were all over the damn place talking to customers. And same with HP. They really work for their customers.
That leads to the I in your mind map, intermediates of ideas and products.
Yeah. See, I think software is not enough. You need soft software. That means you need something beyond the software. You need the link to the reason or the cause or the inspiration or the emotion or the color. The software is not enough. And also, my personal belief is that software as it is sold never works. It never does what it promises. So you always have to buy something more. Or in some cases, some foolish companies sell very good software, but their customer doesn't know what it can do. And it can do many things. So there are either overload, oversupply, and undersupply. But I think the cause, the real thing that drives the industry is creativity. What drives print? Graffiti drives print. Signage drives print. Visual culture drives print. Humanity drives print. Need drives, hunger drives print. So that's what we need to link. I don't know if I'm getting it right, G, but I'm motivated by you.
And then we have the N, and you said neuroscience. What do you mean by that?
See, what I mean is that now I'm 75, and we were brought up to believe that we would be obsolete 4 times in our working life. Okay, 4 times you'd have to begin all over again, you would learn it all over again. Now, first of all, it seems like 4 times is not enough. Okay? And I'm very curious, and I'm curious for Jacob to answer also. What is the difference between expert systems, which we used for typesetting, hyphenation, justification, next dictionaries, and various other algorithms? What is the difference between those and artificial intelligence, except that now you can crunch a lot more numbers faster? But I'm in the position as an editor and as a publisher that I cannot write meaningfully about artificial intelligence unless I learn it. And I don't mean just learn ChatGPT or the tools. I have to understand it. And it's bloody difficult. You know, I'm reading all these old MIT books and listening to Raymond Kurzweil saying that this singularity is going to happen, this, that. I think we need, as an industry, not to just say, yeah, we are also having AI. What does it mean? How is it different than what we had before? Like Jacob said, he had it in the 90s. It was there. It's always been there. But the point is that what are we getting out of calling it artificial intelligence? Is this some trap we have fallen into? And aren't we better off informing our customers more knowledgeably to understand something which then they can take forward creatively, rather than just giving them a capsule? AI, like Intel inside, AI inside. So that's what I feel that we need to. What was the question anyway? I don't know.
The question what
Neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
Yeah. So I think this issue of how the brain works and doesn't work, and stage 1, stage 2 versus left brain, I think this is relevant to us, and we are all going to be forced. We can't just be code coolies. We've got to become creative, and we've got to. It's tough at my age, it's tough at some of your ages, but you've got to crack it. You've got to crack it and break it down and build something new and interesting with it, rather than just delivering it as a, add-on. It'll paginate your pages faster, it'll understand some mistakes, it'll do some proofreading for you. I mean, all that, I mean, I'm threatened by my own young journalists who want to use it to write articles. I had an experience trying to hire somebody, but I got 2 applications with the same answer to our questions. Then when we interviewed that person, we said this, would you like to answer something else, a more difficult kind of thing? They didn't want to take the job. They didn't even want to apply. So we are also dealing with a new world. You are confronted with a world which they have mastered the tools of AI long before we are going to do that. So I think there is something that we have to figure out there.
And the T in your print mind map stands for technological progress, not only for technology. What do you mean by that? Because my feeling is that the progress is so fast that nobody could follow in the meantime. So we have an innovation power like never before, but to adopt and adapt, it takes so much time.
See, I think it's fairly presumptuous and almost egotistical to think that you can be a good technical editor in this day and age. Okay, like I'm carrying this book which I'm reading, Conflicts of Interest. Okay, which fits in with your earlier theme. This is about the environment. And the packaging industry, at least in India, loves plastic. They are dead set against the reforms which are law in India. I'm publishing for the industry. How do I stay friends with them? So this technological, and all this talk about circularity and recycling of plastics, if you look at the facts, by 2030, 2040, 15% of the plastic will be recycled in the world. It's not happening. So those of us who are involved in the packaging industry, this technological progress, there are well-meaning governments in Europe who have C-Flex rules, etc. But Unilever and Coca-Cola have retreated. They say, no, we need to make money. We can't comply with all these regulations and hiring people who are a certain age and all these other kinds of compliances. So there is a huge dichotomy in the world about technological progress. And although many things can be done, it's not going to happen. There's a crisis.
Then you mean not only the technological progress for print, but print in this world of technology progress, right? To find the right position. That's a very good point here.
Yeah, no, even in print, the issue of de-inking, you need new inks, you need to recycle paper more. There's another dichotomy in progress, is that Asia wants paper, publication paper. We want to print books. The paper mills in Europe have closed down. They've closed down the publication paper machine. They want to make only packaging board. Yeah. So there are lots of very interesting complexities in the market that we have to pay attention to. And the consumer prefers recycled board. And of course, in Europe, you have the champions of Arctic fiber and wonderful, virgin fiber, etc. So these are complexities. So technological progress I put because it's a mess, like everything else.
Always my last question. What do you think, if you review your life, what is the most important topic, the highlight of the highlights in your life? Not only related to your business, maybe also to your private life.
See, with the way the world is, I don't think we can describe it in non-fiction without going to jail. All right? Almost everywhere, including India. So my ambition really is to follow some of the Scandinavian novelists, detective novelists. And I would like to write detective novels which are called dark novels about the politicians, the corruption, and stuff like that. So I think one of the highest forms of human activity is actually fiction, or even graphic novels like Joe Sacco, etc., about humorously describing the human condition or saying things about our political reality which cannot be said in nonfiction. They are after the journalists, they're after the writers. There are very few who can speak out, and that it's shrinking around us. So I think I would love to get out of the printing industry to become a detective novel writer.
That's a very good point. I think big applause for Naresh and his wonderful thoughts he was sharing. And maybe we can do a voting, because I got this idea. Naresh, the last name is Khanna, and I would like to change it in Gandhi, Naresh Gandhi. Who likes this idea? It's not the majority, but you have some supporters. So thank you very much for being here.
I'm with the majority, by the way. I'm with the majority who didn't vote for the Gandhi.
That's something like a metaphoric thing for me. Yeah. So because different times.
Yeah, and and Gandhi is now a very important part of the new narrative in the West also. They're starting to quote him on various issues.
Yeah, there's a need for it.
Because this whole, anyway, it's...
Good. Thank you so much.